Today we're going to be working on lesson 747, and this has to do with the same kind of problems we worked with in 746, but instead of using a tape diagram, we're going to be using double number lines. So let's just kind of refresh our memories on how do double number lines work. So what are some things you notice and what are some things you wonder about these two double number lines? So you could have chosen any things that you wanted to, but here are some things that I've noticed that my students in the past have seen when looking at these number lines. The first thing is that this first line on top represents the cups of chocolate milk, and then this one down here actually doesn't have a label. Um, so that's a wonder that I normally get. Like, I wonder why there's no label down here. Um, And to kind of address that wonder, I noticed that these are all percents and these are just numbers. So when I look at this not having a label, I actually know that it still is talking about the cups of chocolate milk. But up here, it's cups of chocolate milk. And then down here, it's the percent. Um, so what that might mean is that, for instance, whoops, here is 100%. So this is telling me it could be anything. It could be maybe there's cartons of chocolate milk, and one whole carton or 100% of a carton is 10 cups. It could be that a recipe, maybe 100% of one recipe calls for 10 cups of chocolate milk. So it's a percent using this chocolate milk. That also brings up a notice that a lot of my students notice, oh, look, we had been concentrating on the original amount as being the 100% or the whole. And so, on here, our whole is 100%. Okay. Um, the other thing students notice is that the number lines, the hash marks or the little ticks, the lines all line up. So 0 over 0, 5 is over 50, 10 is over 100, right? So that is telling us that the 25 goes with what's below it, 250%. The 30 goes with 300%. So these are purposely matched up, okay? And again, you could have any notices or wonders that you may see. So let's go ahead and move on. So now we're going to use a double number line, and actually just to kind of come back here, we could also make double number lines into tables, which is something that we are used to from Unit 2. So we could do milk and then the percent, right? So you could do that. So 0 cups of milk is 0%, 5 cups is 50%, right? You could also turn these into bar models, right? So for instance, we know 100%. So this is going to stand for 100% is 10 cups, right? So there are different ways that you can interact with these number lines. So let's go back over here. And it says for each problem, complete the double number line, meaning we're going to have to show work over here to show the percents that correspond. So that word correspond means which ones match up, which ones go together, right? So for instance, here, the 0 and the 0% go together. So we'll be figuring out, well, how many gas gallons or gallons of gas go with 50%? How many go with 100? How many go with 150? And so on. So which ones correspond, match up to the original amount and to the new amount, okay? So here we go. Let's go ahead and read this. We know that the gas tank in Dad's car holds 12 gallons. The gas tank in Mom's truck holds 50% more than that. How much gas does the truck's tank hold? So I'm noticing something here. The truck's tank is what we're trying to find out, which is Mom's tank. Okay? So this goes back to what we learned in less than 746, um, the first thing we have to do is realize, oh, look, this is the original amount, right? The original amount, and the original amount is always 100%, right? So over on our double number line, I can find 100% and I can mark it with 12 gallons because we know that that's kind of what the whole means, right? The 100%. So the gas tank in mom's truck holds 50% more than that. So when I look over here, I know that, well, if dad's tank's 100%, mom's tank is 50% more, right? So 100% plus 50, I'm looking for this amount here, okay? So the way we can use a double number line for that is we can fill in the missing pieces here, right? So on double number lines, they always jump in the same, what we call, mathematicians call them intervals, meaning going from 0 to this first tick is always going to be the same amount as going from here to here. For instance, my percents are going up from 0 to 50, right? So that's plus 50%. And then this one goes from 50 to 100, so that's also plus 50, right? And again, we see 100 to 150 is another plus 50. So while my percents are going up by 50%, we have to figure out how much are our jumps going up for the gallons, right? And so on here, what I notice, again, remember that these are always going to be the same amount, right? So this is almost like our bar model. So we know if we have 12 gallons, 12 gallons of gas, and the 12 gallons here, it's like it's being split into two equal pieces, right? So we have to figure out how much is it for each one. So if you take 12 and you split it into two equal groups, that means we're going up by 6, right? So this goes 0, 6, 12, and then this has to be another 6. So plus 6. So 12 plus 6, I now know I can enter in my amount, which should be 18. And in this case, it's gallons. So remember, this was our question mark, right? We want to know what 150% is, which in this case is 18. So I can type that in. 18, and they've already been nice and added my gallons, right? So now I'm just going to take the time to explain my thinking. How did I get there? So I want you to try that and then check back in. All right. So again, the way you describe this can be totally different from what I just did. But here's what I wrote. I knew that 6 gallons is exactly in the middle of 0 and 12. This means that the gallons are going up by 6. So I added 12 plus 6 to get a total of 18. The 18 matches up with 150%, which is the amount that the truck holds. That's the way I would describe it. You can describe it any way that you want, as long as you're being detailed and you fully explain how you got your answer. So let's try another one. Okay, so again, we have a double number line. I like to just look at the number lines first to kind of see what's going on. Okay, I know the number of people is on top and the percents are on the bottom. Now, in this case, they did not even tell us, they don't have the percents really listed, just the 0. So I already know that I'm going to have to know what to do for that. So let's see here. It says a school had 1,200 students last year and only 1,080 students this year. What was the percent decrease in the number of students? Okay, so again, the first thing that I want to do is I'm going to put in what goes with my original amount, right? So my original amount is always 100%, and that's going to help me out on here. So if the school had 1,200 students last year, that's my original amount. So I know 1,200 has to be 100%. Okay? And I know that we're looking for the percent decrease. So that, remember, that means how much percent did it go down compared to last year? So I'm going to find my new amount, which is 1,080 students. So I know that's right here. So we know we're trying to figure out what is this percent that matches up with this particular line. And just like the last one, we were trying to figure out, we can tell that this is going up by 120 students each little mark. So we have to figure out how much is this one going up by. Okay. So here's what I know. I know it starts at 0, it ends at 100, right? So let's figure out how many jumps total are there. So I always start at 0. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right. So there's 10 jumps. So I'm trying to figure out if I take 100%, right? And I chop it up, because that's what's happening. It's being divided, chopped up into equal pieces. So we're dividing it into 10 equal pieces. So 100 divided by 10 is 10, right? So I know that my percents are actually going up by 10% each time. So if I want to find out that, I have to think about what the question's asking. What was the percent decrease? Okay. So I know that this question mark has to be 90%, because each little jump is 10%, right? So I know it went from 100% to 90%. Be careful, I have a lot of students who like to put in 90, because that's what the 1,080 students goes with, 90. But they're saying, what percent did it go down by? So I know it went down by 10%. And from here, you need to go ahead and explain your thinking. So try that out, pause, and see what you can do. Okay, and again, what I write does not mean that you have to write exactly that. It does. It is a way that I know that I'm fully explaining. You just have to make sure that you fully explain what you did. Okay, so here's what I wrote. I knew that the 100% went with 1,200 students, because 1,200 was the original amount. Then I noticed that the percents were jumping up by 10, which meant that the percent decrease was 10, because the new amount was one jump away from the original, right? So we went minus 10 to get from 100 to 90. And that is what I would do to describe what's happening. All right, so let's take a look. So now we're still working with number lines, but we have to decide, we have two students doing the same problem. We're going to have to agree with one or both of them to see who got this problem correct. So let's take a look. A juice box has 20% more juice in its new packaging. Okay, so already I'm thinking that means it's going up. So percent increase. The original packaging held 12 ounces. So, okay, so I know that's the original amount. I know that's got to match up with 100%, right? Original is the 100%. How much juice does the new package hold? Okay, so I'm already thinking some things here. I know first I have to look for the 100% matching up with 12 ounces. So I'm going to look at Priya first. Priya has 12 ounces matching with 80%. Okay, so I don't think that's it, just because of that first thing, right? I know the 12 has to be 100, so I'm going to look at Claire. Her 12 does match with 100, so far so good. I also know that the percent increase was 20%. So we're looking for 20% more than the original 12. So the 100 jumps up to 120, so that's good. The last thing I have to check to see is do they have the correct jump here, right? So when I look here, I'm noticing I'm going up once, twice, 3, 4, 5 times. Okay, so I know that the 12 ounces is being divided into 5 equal pieces, right? So each time, this is going to tell us how much it's going up by. Now I know that this is not a whole number, so I'm going to use my calculator. 12 divided by 5, and I get 2.4. So what that's telling me is that my juice ounces are going up by 2.4 ounces each time, right? So it's 2.4, then it goes to 4.8, and so on. So now to get the new amount, I need to take, if I start here at 12, I have to see what's 12 plus 2.4. Okay, so let's try that out. I'm going to take my answer, which was 2.4, and add it to 12, and I get 14.4, which is actually what they have. So I know that this answer, I agree with Claire. They're both not right and they're both not wrong. And so now let's take some time to explain our thinking. Okay, so for my explanation here, I know there's two things that I wanted to make sure of when I was explaining my answers. And the first thing was I wanted to make sure how I knew Priya was wrong. So in my first part of my explanation, that's what I did. I said that I knew Priya was not correct because she had the original amount of 12 matching up with 80 when it really should be 100. So that's my first explanation. You also need to explain how did you know Priya was not correct. For Claire, I explained then how I knew it was correct, that she got the right thing. So I explained that Claire had 12 matched with 100, and she knew that the juice was, I should say, was jumping up by 2.4 ounces each time, which makes the new box hold 14.4 ounces, which should also match up with 120. So again, clearly, I explained how I knew Priya was not right and how Claire was. All right. So again, we have another problem with a double number line. This time we have a movie theater. The size of popcorn bags decreased. Okay, so I'm looking at a percent decrease. The old bags held 15 cups of popcorn. How much should the new bags hold? Okay, so instantly I know old bags means original, which means 100%, right? So I'm going to make sure 15 matches up with 100. Okay. And I know that we are looking for, I want to put my question mark on here, we're looking for 20% less than the 100%, right? So that means the 80%, we're looking for what goes here. Okay. So now I'm going to see how many jumps do we go up to get from 0 to 15. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 jumps. Oh, good. That's easy math for me, right? Because I know that if we have 15 and we're dividing it into 5 equal groups, that 3 ounces goes in each one, right? So our jumps are going up by 3, which means there's two ways you could do this, right? You could just count by threes, 3, 6, 9, 12, right? Or you might have looked at this and said, oh, well, this jump also is 3. So 15 minus 3, also 12. So how much do the new bags hold? 12 cups. And then explain your thinking on how you did that. Okay, and for my complete answer, I made sure that I explained that the 15 cups matches up with 100% because that's the original amount, right? And then I made sure that I noticed that I calculated how much the jumps were going up by, and then how I got from the original amount to the new amount by doing 15 minus 3. All right, here's another one. So let's try this out. 1 week, gas was $1.25 per gallon. The next week, gas was $1.50 per gallon. Okay, so I do know that that's going up. So what percent, I'm looking for percentage, did the price increase? Okay, so again, I start with my original. Hopefully you've caught on to that. 1 week gas was $1.25 per gallon. The next week, okay, so this is our original. So $1.25 is 100%. I also want to live wherever this is because that's really cheap gas. The next week it went up by 100, or went up to $101.50. Okay. So I just have to figure out now how much are my percents jumping, right? So we're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so I'm taking 100 and I'm dividing it into 5 equal pieces. You can put that into your calculator, or you can just know 100 divided by 5 is 20. And so that means that if we're looking for what is goes with $1.50, which is right here. So that means my percent goes up 20. So therefore my new percentage is 120%. Now, I do want to double check something. It said, by what percentage did the price? Okay. Everybody makes mistakes. I've made a mistake. It did not increase by 120%. It only increased by 20%. So again, I wanted to be careful. That's why I checked my work here. So the percentage increased by 20%. And you can go ahead and explain your thinking here. Okay, and for this one, again, I explained how I knew $1.25 matched with 100%, and then that I figured out how much the percents were jumping up, which gave me the answer that it was going up by 20%. Okay. And next, so here we have for each problem, we're doing the same thing after a 25% discount. So this is after a discount, the price of a t-shirt was $12. What was the price before the discount? So I'm going to look here and I notice I'm looking at what I'm trying to find my original amount, right? And original means 100. So this time I'm actually starting by putting my question mark here because I want to know what's the price before the discount. I also know that there was a 25% discount. So here's 75%, right? That's minus 25. And we know that that price was 12 after the discount, right? So basically we got to figure out how much are each of these jumps, okay? So I know there's 1, 2, 3 jumps. So that means the 12 is being divided into 3 equal pieces. Again, I like math like this because I know 12 divided by 3, it's 4. So that's telling me we're trying to find this, which is 1 jump away from 12. So all I got to do is add $4 and I get my original price of $16. And I do not like how they are putting the dollar amount behind because in the way we mark dollars is in the front. Okay, so I would put that, even though it would probably mark it wrong in the Desmos. So again, I'm going to explain what I did. Okay, so I explained that I first knew we were trying to find the original price, so that's why I put a question mark there. Then I put 12 over 75% because I knew that 75% is a 25% discount. Finally, I figured out that the price jumps were going up by 4, so I added 4 to 12 to get a price of 16. And now I want you to go ahead and drag. How are you feeling about this? Are you interested? The more you're interested, the higher up. If you're uninterested in this topic, the lower down. And then also tell me, was it confusing or does it make sense? So if you thought it was, you understand it, but you don't like it, you're putting it over here, right? If you like it and it's interesting and it makes sense, it goes over here. And if you aren't sure, right, you can put it over on this side. The further away from the origin means the more confusing, right? So just kind of maybe elaborate. That means give me some more ideas on how you're feeling about this topic. All right. Thank you.